Lammy, just start with how are you?
Good, Ben. You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you, pal.
Very well.
Just, I guess, firstly, your reaction to the Challenge Cup draw. We've not spoken to you since the draw.
Yeah.
Into the last four Warrants, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's just the same as any team that's left in that four is playing obviously good rugby and tough to beat. So Warrington obviously had a great win over the weekend over Saints. So I think back-to-back weeks there more or less. And, it's going to be a tough game obviously, but we're looking forward to it. We've got a lot of improvement left. We've still got 4 or 5 weeks before that's on. So, we'll look forward to it.
Yeah, I think four or five games before then. What are you sort of hoping to tick off or achieve in these next few weeks before that semi-final comes around?
Yeah, again, I keep repeating the same story, but with 8, 9 new players in our 17, the more games we get to play together with each other it's going to make us a better team. So it's important that over the next 4 weeks we play Warrington again in 2 weeks, our next home game here. So we get a good look at them in 2 weeks' time, but more importantly, it's about making sure that we just try to get our combinations built off the back of the first 5 or 6 rounds of Super League and a couple of games of Challenge Cup. But it's going to take some time, and we're just making sure that we get through this period and we get better as a team.
Reflecting on Friday night's win at Wakefield, obviously, what are your overall thoughts and feelings now you've had time to digest that performance?
Obviously, it's always difficult to play the same team 2 weeks in a row, especially when you've been beaten the first time around quite convincingly. And we were disappointed with that. It was always going to be a real tough job to go up to Wakey and win up there. But it was something that we were passionate about. We had a real simple, basic focus on what we wanted to achieve there, and we got that job done. The rugby wasn't pretty, and I think a bit of luck, you need that little bit of luck in those big games, and I thought we got both of those. But the attitude of the players and their commitment and their resilience and courage through that was outstanding. So it certainly helped us progress into the last 4, which is exactly where we want to be as a club. We've got an opportunity 80 minutes away from Wembley now, and but more importantly, a win together with this new group under pressure circumstances.
Castleford this weekend, then obviously a place you had a bit of success last year. There's been a bit of change there since then. What have you made of the Tigers so far this year?
Yeah, I think bit of change there, but more of a change with us too. With a lot of new faces, and it's a difficult place to go to and win. And they'll admit themselves that they haven't been their best and been inconsistent, a bit like us at times. So it'll be a tough match. We want to go there with the right attitude, and we want to get back on the winning ways in Super League. So it's a really important game for us to make sure that we get a more of a complete, consistent performance.
I think we spoke about it last year when you obviously went there, but they've got a bit of a PNG contingent going on now, haven't they? And obviously you guys have at Lee as well. You have for a few years. It's good to see from a Cummins point of view, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started all of this, and you could see that the players that we brought in, they gave a lot more of exposure for the Papua New Guinea players to be picked up by Super League, and they're now scattered right throughout the competition. So grateful for that, and the players they have got are good players as well. They've recruited really well in that area, I feel, and Rimbu, the starting 9, and Liam has also been awesome out of that 9 position or at that 13 position, and Simic in the back rower. They've got a few others there that may be in the squad this week too, but they've done a pretty good job for them.
Yeah, obviously we've not seen your squad yet. What can you tell us about it? Any injuries from last week? Anyone that might be returning? Yeah,
it'll be a pretty similar squad with the addition of it looks like Daniel McIntosh will be in there. So there has been a couple of niggly injuries today at training. So we've got to just make sure we get through to captain's run there and see how that settles. So the squad of the 17 isn't settled as of today. We've got a bit of tinkering to do with that as we move into the weekend.
It'll be nice to see Darnell back in the squad again, won't it? And hopefully now this is his sort of run of games, because it's been a torrid year for him so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, Darnell's had an incredible off-season and one of our standout players, really, and was really looking forward to him and combining with Yamila on that right-hand side, the way that they trained in pre-season. We've got a knee posterior cruciate damage in the last session on our summer camp, which damaged him for a while, but I think he'll come straight back in when he's ready, and whether he plays left or right, we'll make a decision off that. But I think he's a player that brings that bit of X factor to us. He's got a little bit more height. He's a strong carrier. Our back five have been doing a really good job for us, and I've been proud of them. But he'll certainly bring it to the next level.
I know you said Josh was maybe within the next fortnight, so
yeah.
Are we looking next week for him maybe?
Yeah, he's a chance for this week too. Where we fit him in, we'll like I said, there's a couple of niggly injuries at the moment to Yamila and Keenan, so we've got to manage that process through until the captain's run on Friday, and then make a decision based off that.
And just lastly from me, the weekly sort of recruitment question. Anything you can share on that recruitment front?
No, nothing yet. Obviously, it's ongoing all the time. It's something that we meet every day on, and we're aware of it. But we're in no rush to just bring anyone over here. We want it to be the right fit. So there's a little bit of time, patience, and a bit of brains around how we're going to do that. So we'll keep you informed.
Good luck this week.
Okay, mate. Thanks, Benny.
Hi, Adrian. You all right?
Hey, mate. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Just on that recruitment as well, I know you probably get bored of these questions. Is there a chance that you could go throughout the whole year and almost leave that quota spot, or will you, if you're obviously pushing for the playoffs, which we expect it to be, will you make an effort to go and get someone on that short-term thing, or
yeah,
is there just consideration not to bother with it?
Yeah, I think there's a few positions there that we feel strongly that we need to strengthen. So it's ongoing every day, every week, and we probably won't wait till the end of the year for that to happen. It'll happen as soon as we can make the right call on that.
And just come back to recruitment, Tessy Niu.
Yeah.
That try that he scored on Friday, I don't think he has any right to score that try.
Yeah.
How come or maybe there was other teams in for him, but how come it seemed like there was no real noise about anyone other than Lee being in for him? Why is that when you see what he can do?
I think we think we do a pretty good job with finding players that are under the radar, and we feel that we do our homework heavily on who's the next one's coming through, and that one was quite an easy one. I've watched Tessy since he was 12, 13 when I was doing the junior recruitment for the Roosters. So at that age group, right through the teenage age group, I think he was probably the best teenager in Australia, in the country at one stage there. So it was always eyes on trying to bring him over here, and then it happened. So I still think Tessy's got like 3 or 4 levels to go to. I mean, that try in that moment in that part of the game was inspirational, and you don't see too many players do individual things like that in the game, and it was just as good as it gets in rugby league to get the team off the canvas, lift them back into a position to win the game, and just if you see the team around him when he scores, everyone's in there within 2 or 3 seconds of him scoring. They know what he's capable of doing. He's an unbelievable talent, and I think he's only going to get better and better as the year goes on. Once he settles right in, his confidence is already there, and I think he's going to go to another level with his game in the next couple of weeks.
You mentioned the team celebrating there, and you've alluded before to the amount of new faces you've got in. I was just looking through the stats for Super League, and I think on the penalties, you're one of the least penalised teams. Yet, like you say, you've got so many new faces in. And obviously, you've got to learn new combinations, defensive systems, etc. How do you instill that?
It's difficult.
The discipline effectively.
It's difficult, but it's part of our standards and part of what our philosophy is around the group and developing the group. I feel strongly that part of the strength of me as a coach is to bring people together and make them play for each other. And I think it's going to be ongoing with this group. It could take up to 12 months, 18 months. That's the way that it normally works. But and it takes those performances like we did against Wakefield when we're behind or when we're backs against the wall and they come together to get that performance out. I mean, you can't coach that, you can't train that. That's got to be delivered under pressure when it counts the most, when they needed each other the most, and they did that. And I think that helps the group develop. It helps the group understand that the capabilities and to trust in each other and that true, genuine belief in each other. So, I think I was pretty excited in the dressing room after that win because I know it was more than just a win. For me as coach, to see them finding a way to win that under pressure is inspirational, and it's as good as it gets. And those moments are what bring teams together sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 100%. Also, again, I don't know. I think last year you were one of the highest on the sin bins as well. And this year you've not seen yellow. Maybe it might have come in the Challenge Cup against Batley. I didn't actually cover that game, so I'm not sure. But again, like you say, you've kind of instilled something, and it's ringing true with all the players, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, again, it ties in with our discipline and our standards as a club. But I think overall in Super League, I think the sin bins have come down a fair bit. So, and that's a good thing for the game. But for us, we work hard on 13 on 13 is difficult enough. And then if you're not completing, but when you go down to 12 players for 10 minutes, it's a really tough ask. And if you get through that period without conceding points, it's very rare. So, just the discipline and the understanding of who we want to be as a club is certainly instilled in them, and may that long continue in the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all from me. So best of luck on Saturday, and thanks very much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Adrian.
Martin,
good to see you.
Good to see you.
I told you were going to win last week, didn't I?
You did, mate, and that's why we won.
My theory, absolutely, yeah. Big game though at Cass, isn't it, this week? They're struggling, but always dangerous, particularly on their own ground. And you're just in 6th place at the moment, 7 points from 6 games after a great start to the season.
Yeah.
You just need to get back on. You've got back on track in the cup. You need to do the same now in the league, and you can't afford to relax.
Yeah, I think it is a very tough game. And we've always had a tough periods in the last couple of years for going there, and I think they'll respond. They've had a week off, Cass. They're going to be fresh. It's a home game, big crowd there, and it's one that we need to just stay focused on. It's very easy to get up for a quarter final of the Challenge Cup, but it's harder to back it up the week after. So that's the challenge within the group, and I think there's a real steel focus there at the moment. There's also an understanding that our rugby isn't quite where it needs to be, but we're bought in the fact that it'll come if we keep working hard for each other, and we need to maintain that consistency this week.
I've missed some of the earlier questions, but Rob Mulhern came back on last Friday. Was he a really crucial factor as far as you were concerned?
Yeah, definitely. Probably the most important piece of the puzzle there at the moment, just with his leadership and his direct and go forward. He's one of the best players in this country, certainly one of the best front rowers, and when you've got someone like that coming back from a long time out, it certainly lifts the group.
We've just done our podcast earlier today, Adrian, and I've given Sean Wayne a pretty direct piece of advice that Rob Mulhern ought to be in his squad, so I probably kiboshed poor old Rob's chances of being in the team, but I mean, he should be, shouldn't he? He's looking as good as he's ever looked, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think he should have been in the side last year, in my opinion. So, I'm sure that's Rob's focus, but he also understands, Robbie, that it's the week to week consistency that gets you into these representative teams, and his mates are going to try and help him there. It's he's certainly, the games that he has played this year for us, he's certainly brought us to another level as a team, and I think there will be some representative honours at the end of the year for him if he maintains the consistent form that he's had.
Just one final point as well. The kick-off time this weekend, 8 o'clock Saturday night. That's a fairly unusual time, isn't it? Does that have any effect in terms of the way you plan for the game or anything? It's not many games at that time on a Saturday night.
No, it is a different one, and the weeks come and go really quickly here, and I don't know whether it's Thursday or Friday some days, but the players are prepared for every circumstance. All it does really is, I know the sun's going to be out on Friday, the hottest day of the year, and Saturday was meant to be the hottest, but it's going to be just as hot. So it gives us just a little bit more time to sunbake there on Saturday before we get on the bus and head up to Cass.
Does the weather forecast have much impact then on the way you prepare?
Well, it can do in the sense of if there's rain predicted or it's slippery and wet, but it looks like it's going to be dry and a great night for rugby. That's why I predict there's going to be a pretty big crowd there. The Cass fans always get behind them regardless of how they're going, and they want to play well together as a group. So no doubt it'll be an outstanding game.
It's a game I always look forward to, Adrian, because I always tend to think there's a bit of a similarity between Castleford and Leigh. Former mining towns, roughly the same size, very similar sort of fan base and so on. It's something to really look forward to, in my view.
Yeah, it's always a game that we look forward to as well. It's a different size pitch for the people that aren't quite aware of it. It's about 8 to nearly 10 metres shorter than every other pitch. So there's a slightly different game plan and process around that, but it's as wide as a normal pitch, and the fans are standing over the top here. There's a lot of animosity there, and it's very tough to go and play. The dressing rooms are small and tight, but that's part of the challenge, and we're looking forward to getting up there and, like I said, trying to keep that consistency as a team.